In this video, I will talk about style in relation to writing. There are many different styles in writing, and style refers to the way someone writes. Depending on your audience and topic, you will use different writing styles. Word choice, sentence fluency, and the writer's voice all contribute to the style of a piece of writing. One style isn't any better than another. Style choice depends on your audience and purpose for writing something. We are primarily focusing on an academic style in this course because many college course assignments require that you use an academic style, and this style is much more formal than other writing styles. So we're going to talk about how and why this is a more formalized style of writing. Other styles include expository, analysis, descriptive, narrative, persuasive, and report writing. With an academic style, serious topics are explored, and these are often topics related to specific fields of study. The audience is knowledgeable and informed, and the point of view or voice used to express ideas is typically the third person, using pronouns like she, he, it, they, them. On occasion, we'll see first-person pronouns like I and me and mine, such as when learned experience is written about in an academic paper. And with an academic style, the vocabulary is objective and impersonal. A little bit more about academic style. With an academic style, we typically write out contractions. So, for example, we would write cannot instead of can't. Typically, an academic style does not use regional language, although I believe there is a place for regional language within an academic style or setting. Regional language refers to language that you're only going to hear typically in a specific geographic region, such as Pidgin. And different geographic regions or places have their own unique types of Pidgin. In an academic style, we write out numbers under 100, we use conventional grammar and punctuation, and we use formal documentation. And in this case, for our course, we use MLA format. Regardless of your audience or style, you should always use inclusive language, because inclusive language acknowledges diversity, conveys respect to all people, is sensitive to differences, and promotes equal opportunities. Take a look at the examples here. These are examples of binary assumptive language, and this type of language assumes that there are only two genders. So there's a binary system of gender, male and female. When you're writing and speaking, it's best to avoid using this type of language. Some examples include ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, men and women of the faculty, brothers and sisters, he or she and he, sir or madam. Instead, you want to use gender-inclusive alternatives that do not assume a gender binary. Examples: esteemed guests, that person, friends and colleagues, students, siblings, everyone, the participant, faculty members, faculty of all genders. You want to keep in mind this always should be taken in context. For example, if you know your audience, you know somebody you're speaking to personally, and you know their personal pronouns, for example, it's okay to use those. But if you don't know somebody, you don't know people in your audience, you should always use gender-inclusive terminology. Some outdated terms to avoid that may be considered offensive include transsexual. Instead, you can use trans or transgender. Sex change or sex reassignment. Instead, you could use gender affirmation or transition care. Instead of biological man or biological woman, you could use cisgender man or cisgender woman. And instead of feminine, female pronouns or masculine and male pronouns, using she, her pronouns, he and him pronouns. And if somebody prefers they or them, of course, use those pronouns. Instead of asking your preferred gender pronoun, ask for the personal pronoun. Instead of transvestite, use cross-dresser. Instead of hermaphrodite, use intersex. Instead of homosexual, please use gay or lesbian. And instead of asking about lifestyle or preference, use orientation or identity. We could easily spend a semester talking about race, ethnicity, and ancestry. However, for this presentation, I'm going to just briefly dive into these terms because they're important, and when you are writing, you should be mindful about the difference between race, ethnicity, especially. I used this quote from Alice Popejoy, who is a postdoctoral scholar who studies biomedical data, and I'm going to just read what she says about race and ethnicity. So she says there really aren't universal definitions of race, ethnicity, and ancestry, which is likely part of the reason there's so much confusion about what they mean and how they overlap, especially in science. Race, for instance, is more often used in a socio-political context as a construct that's broadly tied to societal hierarchies of power. Often with ethnicity, people tend to use the term in a more cultural or community-based context. Sometimes people will use race and ethnicity interchangeably, as some may feel more comfortable saying ethnicity because race can invoke discomfort related to racism. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in terms of race and racial identity. It's important to acknowledge race as a social fabrication created to classify people on the arbitrary basis of skin color and other physical features. Although race has no genetic or scientific basis, the concept of race is important and consequential. Societies use race to establish and justify systems of power, privilege, disenfranchisement, and oppression. In a racialized society like the United States, everyone is assigned a racial identity, whether they are aware of it or not. So with this said, when we are writing or speaking with people and racial, ethnic, and tribal identity comes up, it's best to have a conversation with individuals and ask them which terms they use to refer to themselves in terms of racial, ethnic, and tribal identity, instead of making an assumption and using a term that somebody may not wish to be used in regards to themselves. That concludes this presentation. If you have questions about any of the information that I covered, please let me know. Mahalo.